welcome to my PMP video series. This is the 6th video in the series. Today we'll talk about the role of the project manager. As you probably know, the role of the PM is to make sure that the project achieves its objectives and achieves them within the time frame given and within the budget that was allocated for it. The main goal of a project manager is to deliver the scope that was in the charter or in the requirements or in the scope statement. Now, that scope could vary between one project and the other. A small project will take less effort than a larger project. The role of the PM is quite different from the role of functional managers such as like head of engineering or head of HR, and from operations managers. Operations managers are focused on fiscal or quarterly targets, and they may focus on things that are repeatable. Functional managers likewise focus on repeatable tasks. Their engineering team could be tasked with similar things on a daily basis or weekly basis. PMs, on the other hand, are focused on tasks that once they're done, they can cross off their list, and it brings them closer to completing the project. So we say that the project manager's job is to complete a one-off target and put it to rest. Okay? So this PM is going to be assigned by a sponsor to lead a team that is going to help that PM achieve the project objectives. Many people are quite confused when it comes to the role of the PM, and I hear it from a lot of people who attend my courses that they are engineers and the organization expects them to be doing engineering as well as leading the project. In an ideal world, the PM should not really be taking on engineering or other tasks, because that makes them biased in a way, because they will be more focused on getting their technical work done, and if mistakes were to happen, they are less likely to report those because that conflicts with their image. So it is best that a PM is assigned to oversee, to direct, and manage the delivery of the project through the work of the engineers and technical resources. This way, if there are any problems or if there are issues that arise, the PM is not going to be biased, and there's nothing to conflict with their interests because the work is not being done by them. So I don't know if I explained it well. The PM should not really be holding on to any tasks or should not be assigned to specific technical tasks on the project. What the PM should really be doing is meeting with stakeholders, understanding their requirements, confirming that what has been delivered met their expectations, listening to issues or problems that are being raised by the stakeholders or by the team, facilitating the acquisition of the needed resources to get the project done, dealing with changes as they come up, dealing with conflicts that may happen within the team internally and externally, and dealing with crisis whenever it hits, and at the same time be able to respond to the sponsor's request for up-to-date information and ad hoc meetings. So the PM, if they're doing things right, the PM would be typically too busy to be able to take on any specific technical tasks in the project. So on this slide here, you'll see that the PM leads the project team to meet the objectives and stakeholders' expectations. And that is an ongoing thing, right? So there is nothing that says that today, if you met their needs, that tomorrow nothing changes, right? And the PM needs to work to balance the competing constraints on the project with the resources that are available. You will find many times as a PM that you're being pulled in different directions, that stakeholders want something today, they want something different tomorrow. You deliver, they ask for more. Your resources are being taken away from you sometimes, or you don't have enough and you're trying to balance those resources to make sure that the highest priority items are being addressed. Communication sits solely, well, maybe not solely, but it's communication between the team and the sponsors usually is done by the PM. So you sit right in the middle there and you communicate upwards and you communicate downwards. You communicate upwards to give project status updates, and you communicate downwards to relay what senior management or the sponsors would like the team to know. All right. If you are within a program, then you're most likely going to interact with other PMs that are in that one program. You need to make sure as a PM that you're staying up to date about what's going on in the industry. So if you're in an oil and gas project, and something is happening with the price of oil, or if you're in IT and some new invention or some new, let's say, algorithm is figured out that may have an impact on what you're working on, or maybe a regulation is changing that affects your project, you need to know what's going on so that by the time you deliver the project, you're delivering something that is not already obsolete, right? You also, as a PM, need to make sure that you are integrating all aspects of the project and considering all areas, so time, cost, scope, quality, your resources, the risks, and so on, right? So you have to integrate all aspects of the project. Nobody else is going to do that. That's the job of the PM. And you need to constantly make sure that knowledge is being transferred to the right people. So documenting as best as you can, doing lessons learned, archiving, letting people know where the archived information is so that they can access it in the future. Along with all of this, you're going to play teacher, right? Most of the sponsors and most of the functional managers are not always going to be educated about project management, and you as a PM needs to inform them how projects operate, what to expect, what you need from them, what you can provide them, so that you guys can collaborate together on making sure that the project is successful. Okay, as a PM, you need to have diverse skills, right? And the diversity is actually, according to PMI, they've shown 3 different areas that you need to have talent in, right? Or competencies in. So number 1, you need to know what we're covering in this course, and that's the technical project management. Everything that is in the PMBOK, you need to know it inside out. These are things, or these are guides or processes that you would use in managing your project. Along with that, you need to be a good leader. To be a good leader, you need to know how to work with people, motivate them, direct them. Otherwise, you're going to end up doing all the work yourself, and be able to help the organization achieve its business goals. That means, and that takes us to the third one, you need to understand strategy. You need to understand what the business is about. If you're working for a private business and you're constructing anything or you're implementing some IT rollout project, you need to know what that business, where the business makes its money from. You need to know how your work fits into that business's strategy. Even if you're working for government and nonprofit, you still need to know why this project is strategically important for them. Otherwise, you could make some damaging changes along the way. So altogether, you need to have talent in all 3 different areas, and this is called the, I believe, talent triangle, right? You need to be technically knowledgeable about project management, you need to know quite a bit about leading a team, and you need to also be in touch and in tune with the strategy that the organization is trying to implement. All right. What you will see on this one slide here is a comparison between management and leadership. So on the left here, we have management, and what you see below are things that we do basically when we're executing. So when you're on the floor, on the site, when you're getting things done at that time, that's when you need management, right? In other instances, we will need leadership, but let's just focus on management. Take a look at what's in there, right? You focus on system and structure. You focus on near-term goals. So it's what's in front of you, how and when, the bottom line, the status quo, doing things right. This is you being there with the team, executing on the specific activities that need to be done. This is you delegating responsibilities to the team, checking on their output at that time. On the right-hand side is leadership. Leadership is a little bit different. It is focused on long term, right? We're looking at getting results in the long run. And that means we need to motivate, we need to inspire, we need to innovate, we develop, we ask, why are we doing this? We focus on the horizon, not just what's in front of us. And we're focused on doing the right thing. See this here? We're focused on doing the right things, but if you look at the management side, you're doing things right. This is when you're standing there and they're digging up a trench and you're making sure your engineers are doing the right job. On the right-hand side, doing the right things, this is you looking at, whether what you're doing is going to lead you to the, the organization's strategic objectives. So you focus on long-term vision, right? Making sure that everything is aligned, right? So this is what we call leadership on the right-hand side. And for you as a PM, you're going to need to do both. Unfortunately, you have to do both management and leadership. There are times when you need to inspire, but there are times when you need to act quick. So there are times for management when things need to be done in the near term, and there are times for when you need to exercise leadership when we need to build for later. Okay? So speaking of leadership, there are different leadership styles that a PM could use, right? And there is no one style that supersedes the rest. And there is no one style that you should stick with that will be permanent for you. Instead, what you need to do is determine, based on 4 different factors that you see here, what would be the right leadership style to use. So, number 1, you have your own characteristics as a person. You have your own attitudes, your moods, needs, values, etc., right? But then the team has its own attitudes, moods, needs, and values, and ethics, right? And you need to make sure that when you work with that team, that you're able to work well together. You also need to look at the organization itself, the way it is structured, its purpose, like its mission and vision, the type of work that they do, and make sure that you are managing to that your leadership style is suitable for that. You can easily think of the difference between managing in a retail business and then managing in a military type environment, right? I think you can get the picture of this. Each organization is completely different. A lot of the IT or technology companies are more relaxed, contemporary, modern, and they're more about innovation, right? Whereas you find in other industries, they're very risk averse. They take things very seriously. They take a lot of precautions, right? So that organization has that characteristic, and you need to make sure you are managing to that. Along with that, the environment itself, right? The economic state, things change. Things change quite a bit from year to year. Social situations between one place and another, between one time and another, will vary. The nature of the project, the environment in which you need to operate outside of the organization, right? Which industry you're in, that has its own impact on what would be the right leadership style. Now, speaking of leadership styles, there are some, documented or well-known styles that people talk about. So let's talk about, I like to start with this one here, charismatic, right? What is a charismatic leader? A charismatic leader is someone who has charm, right? They're very confident, they're likable, they say things, people listen to them. A good example of that would be, hopefully you like them, Bill Clinton, right? Bill Clinton was charismatic. People loved him. And when he talked, people listened. So if you have charisma, people would listen to you. And so you might be a charismatic leader if you're one of those. There's also the transformational leaders, right? Transformational leaders are looking for long-term transformations or changes, and therefore what they tend to do is that they inspire and they motivate people and they lead them towards that big change that is coming up in the horizon. Servant leaders are those who serve and put other people first. We would like our presidents to be servant leaders, consider people to be more important. So a PM who is a servant leader is someone who listens to their team and is very concerned about their needs and wants. It does not mean that if you're a servant leader that you became a servant and you're not necessarily a good leader. It means that you are concerned about what your team wants. Transactional leaders are those who are focused on counting, so rewards, counting how many goals or objectives, accomplishments. So they want to make sure 1, 2, 3, 4 things on the checklist they're being completed. They love transactions, right? So they want to count how many things are being done. Laissez-faire, a French word here, is a leadership style that allows the team to make their own decisions. It means they're consultative in nature. They listen really well to what the team wants. There is some harm in being overly laissez-faire, where you allow the team to make the decisions in instances where you should be making those decisions. So it is nice to have a balance between all of these leadership styles. The last one, interactional. Interactional is a combination of transactional here, right? It's a combination of transactional and transformational and charismatic, right? So this is someone who is able to interact no matter what the situation is. Realistically, as a leader, you should be able to practice any or all of these leadership styles depending on what the situation requires. Personality is going to play a big role in you being a successful PM. If I always tell people in my trainings that if you don't have the right personality to be out there working with a group of people who may not belong to you, as organizationally they may not belong to you, if you can't work with them and inspire them to get things done and be a likable person and be able to direct people to get things done, and respect and listen to what they have to say and be able to make decisions when situations call, then if you can't do any of these, then you're not going to succeed as a PM. Just because you study the PMBOK and get your PMP certification will not necessarily mean that you can manage a team. To manage a team, you got to have the right personality. You will see a list of different characteristics that a PM needs to have. One of these is creativity, right? Creativity. Every situation calls for a different response. So you got to be creative in how you respond to specific issues. You need to be very socially smart, right? Intellectual, emotionally, this is emotional intelligence. So you need to be intelligent emotionally. You need to know how a person is thinking. You need to know what motivates other people. You need to be able to instill a sense of trust with the people that work with you, people who feel that they can rally behind you, right? So I think a little bit of maybe sincerity, it's not here, but you need to be sincere, you need to be authentic, and you need to be genuine, and you also need to be, what's the word I'm looking for here? You need to be passionate about what it is that you're working on. You need to be one that doesn't appreciate failure specifically, right? Or doesn't count failure as anything that hinders you. Your passion drives you to go past the failure and look for ways to get out of a mess. The team needs to feel that they're in good hands. And if you don't have that kind of personality, I'm afraid that it will be very hard for you to work as a project manager. All right, so as a PM, you are expected to pull this project together. And by that, we mean integration, right? So what do you need to integrate? Two things you need to integrate. You need to make sure that what the sponsor is looking for, the strategic objectives that they want, are being aligned with when you're working on the project. So make sure that you are contributing to the integration and execution of the strategy by making sure that the project and its activities are all aligned with the strategic goals of this one project. The other thing that you need to do is be able to integrate the internal workings of project management as per the PMBOK. So there are processes like scope and schedule and the WBS and so on, and you need to make sure, and like risk and procurement and so on, you need to make sure that all these processes are being integrated well so that you can deliver a successful project. Okay? When you integrate at three different levels. Number one, you integrate at the process level. As I was saying, these are the 49 processes that we currently have in the PMBOK. You need to integrate all these pieces, and most of them kind of like connect in a certain way, so you need to integrate them. The other way that you need to integrate is at the cognitive level, and the cognitive level says that you need to find the most suitable way to manage a project depending on its specific characteristics. So how big the project is, who the organization is, how complex of an environment it is that you're working in, and these are things you have to consider. At the context level, you need to consider implications of the technology, the social media, and the reason why the project is being run. So you need to look at it from its, what the context is. You have to look at the specific characteristics, and you also need to consider those 49 processes that are in the PMBOK. You need to integrate all these aspects. So you're a busy person as a PM. Don't ever estimate the role of this PM. You have a lot on your plate. And speaking of a lot, the more the stakeholders, the more the pieces to the project, the more complexity there will be in the project. Complexity within the project is a result of the organization's overall behavior, human behavior, and the uncertainties that lie ahead on this one project. Because there are many moving parts in a project, and because the details of the project tend to expand or elaborate or get enhanced along the way, and because of the constant changes that you can expect, and because there are humans behind these requests that result in the changes, you can imagine that there is a level of complexity that you're going to have to work with. Nobody should be a PM if they cannot deal with complexity. And I think complexity is a part of the game of being a project manager. So there you have it. That's the role of the PM. After all this, if you feel you still want to be a PM, then look for my next video. If you feel this is not really for you, you'd rather have a very stable, consistent, day-to-day type, operational type work, then maybe this is the time to consider your options. Not trying to scare you. I personally believe that projects are very interesting. They bring up challenges that would make every day different from the rest, and that's probably what makes project management interesting. If you can live with that and see it as an interesting challenge and consider your daily wins, your small wins as exciting, then I think project management is for you. We will stop here for now. Hope you enjoyed this section of the PMP training, and I will see you on the next video, which will be on integration management. Thank you for watching, and see you on the next video. Take care. Bye-bye.